Today's topic: why so many people fail in relationships. I'm going to be going over where it all began, as far as the main reasons on why people fail in relationships today, and why many more will inevitably continue to fail in relationships in the future. It all begins with poor parenting, or lack of parenting. I'm not just talking about orphans or those who grew up with single parents. I'm also talking about anyone who had parents who failed to teach them everything they needed to know about relationships. It doesn't matter who you are, because every single one of us were all children, teenagers, and young adults at one point in our lives. This is a universal fact. So what happened? Why are so many people still failing in relationships today? Why isn't it improving enough? The answers are simple, which I'll be presenting here today. I'll be introducing the top 3 most common problems that almost all of us had to experience as children, teenagers, and young adults. So let's go ahead and begin with our first reason, which everyone I highly recommend needs to hear. Alright, maybe you grew up with parents that clearly did not love each other. This is very common. Maybe they were poor parents, not giving you much needed attention, not teaching you about how relationships even work. Perhaps you had mediocre parents who were merely simple companions and nothing more. Parents, regardless of how in love they are or not, have a responsibility to teach their children everything about sex, love, and relationships. It's not just a question, the birds and the bees, where do babies come from? I'm talking about in depth when the time is ready to do so, right? When the moment is the perfect moment to talk to your children about these things. I don't know. I would say love and respect, being kind to one another at a young age. Then when they become teenagers, I'd say probably around 14, really go more in detail with sexual education, just so that they're aware, because the hormones are starting to develop. You don't want them to go out there and make a mistake. So we're going to get into that. From teaching you how to have safe sex in order to avoid sexually transmitted infections, to teaching you about abstinence. That's the safest method. Maybe you had parents who failed to show you what a loving relationship looks like, failed to teach you what a loving relationship is supposed to feel like. Being a parent is far more than just having children just to raise them by taking them to school, buying food and clothing. Unfortunately, that's the sad reality for so many people today, who were raised by poor, mediocre parents who failed to do a good job by educating their children about the importance of developing mental and emotional control, wisdom, intelligence, respect, and honor. These are beautiful words, but you'd be surprised because even little kids bully each other. They suffer from depression, anger, anxiety, all the negative emotions. Why? They're just little kids, but this is where it all develops. All the future problems that they're going to experience that just grow like a snowball effect. Just get worse and worse and worse. Bigger and bigger consequences. All right, let's go ahead and proceed here. Thanks to poor parenting, or lack thereof, many people were set up for failure, future failure, forced to learn the hard way when the time came to engage in a relationship. This is why there are so many toxic people today, all due to problems that began long ago when they were all young. Without learning anything about love, one is either forced to learn the hard way or develop a low self-esteem, consequently avoiding having any relationship with anyone. Too afraid of the unknown, as far as how it will go, what could possibly go wrong, all from being completely unprepared. This is when problems such as extreme shyness, being far too quiet, not being able to express one's emotions, not able to think clearly about how to resolve problems in a relationship, such as arguments, or even perhaps having temptations to become physically or verbally abusive. As a coach, I often run into people whose current relationship issues stem from way back in their childhood. They're still dealing with past traumas, such as problems with PTSD, fear, anxiety, depression, or anger, all because parents or whoever raised them failed to do a good job. So this is where it starts. And you'd be surprised. It does continue for the rest of one's life. But I have the solution at the very end, so let's keep on going. This is precisely why we will always have a high divorce rate or breakup rate for those who fail to reach establishing a successful lifelong relationship. There's a tremendous lack of education from parents in every country across the world. In fact, too many children grew up with uncomfortably strict helicopter parents who control your every move, every thought, opinion, or belief of your own, manipulating children with extreme narcissistic, physically and verbally abusive methods, creating a hostile living environment. This causes children to develop future issues with trusting others, which is why many people feel as if they can't trust anyone these days. Trust issues, betraying others, being selfish and ungrateful all come from being raised in a negative home. When parents fail to teach their children about the importance of being a positive, productive, wise, intelligent, loving person, the world will inevitably teach them how to be ungrateful, negative, destructive, passive, filled with hatred, taking their misery out on others. In other words, if the parents don't raise the children, the world will. And let me tell you, it's a nasty world out there. A lot of negative influences. So you want to pull the slot machine lever and see how your child will become? Do a poor job in parenting. Either they turn out to be good or most likely bad. That's a sad reality. So for example, I grew up with very strict parents who did physically and verbally abuse me. The physical abuse was from time to time, but the verbal abuse was almost all the time. It got worse as I grew older, still living with my parents. I was ultimately exiled from my family for refusing to be controlled like a puppet anymore. I chose to take a stand against my parents, which is what everyone should have done in their past, if that's the case. However, we have many people who unfortunately gave in to their abusive households with such abusive parents, allowing that negative energy to mold them into what they are today, completely out of control, or almost out of control, borderline. I chose to study everything I could about sex and love at the very young age of 13 years old, when I first began to have hormonal feelings. As they say, hormones, right? I read encyclopedias. This was before the age of the internet. Watched lots of intimate scenes from Hollywood movies when no one was looking. I continued to study everything about love and sex, even if it was just words. With self-education. I do believe that teenagers, however, should wait to have sex until they are at least 18 years old, a young adult, so that they may properly form a strong base, which includes developing a strong mind, being in control of their emotions, developing a sense of wisdom and passion for life and love. So, too many kids out there, they're rushed into the teenage years and then they rushed into the adult years. And then, like I said, it's a slot machine from there. You pull the lever and see what happens. So, unfortunately, many abusive parents, they want to smack their kid into discipline. They say, oh, just spank your child. It works. Well, just because something works doesn't mean it's right. Like, if I was going to engage in a fight with somebody else, I can knock them out and possibly kill them with one punch. That's not really smart. There should be another way to resolve the issue without having to get physical. Oh, but knocking them out works. Yeah, it does work. But does that mean it's right? Well, everybody else does it. I don't think so. You see, only the intelligent, loving people will think of plenty of other ways, dozens of other ways, to properly discipline their children. And that was a big mistake while I was growing up. My parents were one of those parents who believed in spanking their children. And it went far more than spanking. It went slapping children in the face, slapping all of us in the face, twisting our wrists, pushing us, whatever it was, in order to control us, not just physically, but verbally. Sometimes the verbal abuse hurts far more than the physical abuse, because you get called a plethora of all kinds of nasty names that aren't even true. And we were very good children. We got very high grades in school. We played sports. We always loved our parents, showed them kindness and affection and appreciation, gratitude. It was never enough. So for a lot of people out there, it's the same case. They had abusive parents. They were completely out of control. And then, as they say, hurt people hurt people. So you learn how to be that way through observation. That's the only thing you have to learn from. From your mentors, which are your parents, your parental guardians. And unfortunately, they mimic that behavior. If, for example, when I first joined the Army in reception, not even in basic training yet, I quickly noticed that all the soldiers were just imitating the drill sergeants. They were trying to act like them, to be like them, because they're the authority figure. They thought it was so cool to yell at other soldiers and put them in their place, make them do push-ups. They wanted that power so bad. Everybody, all these privates wanted to become sergeants and officers so that they can just boss around the other soldiers. Well, the same thing happens in the household, especially if you have siblings, brothers and sisters, or even just one brother or sister. It depends if you're the older or younger one. So there's fighting among siblings already. And from parent to child, talking back to your parents. That was a big no-no. Nowadays, you'll hear it all the time. Children talking back to their parents. Even children abusing their own parents. Child-to-parent abuse. It exists. Just like the care homes abusing old people. So there's abuse everywhere. So let's go ahead and move on here, because I'm going to provide the solution. So here's the solution. We all have a choice in life, regardless of whether you had bad parents or not. You have to choose whether you want to be a good person or a bad person. How much you want to feel the eternal power of love for an entire lifetime and beyond. So if you don't believe in love, in true love, then yeah, your life is going to be miserable. If that's not your main mission in life, to love somebody with all of your heart and soul, you can forget about happiness. Happiness just left the building. It took the train home. I highly recommend teaching children martial arts, by the way, and to never stop practicing martial arts so that they learn how to discipline themselves through rigorous physical and mental training, learning the importance of peace, honor, tenacity, and of course, self-defense. Why not? There's a lot of children out there who get physically assaulted, even sexually assaulted. So learning martial arts to defend oneself, I think that's paramount. If every child learned how to defend themselves, both physically and verbally, how to say clever things in order to avoid engaging in fights in the first place, our world would definitely be in a far better place in the future. That's the problem, though. Too many people failing to learn from the very beginning when they're young. We hear about toxic females with daddy issues or mental issues, or toxic males with macho issues, always being offensive, inconsiderate, and violent. The only way we can prevent future chaos within humanity itself is by resolving problems from beginning so early in life. So like I said, that's the solution. You have a choice. Do you want to continue the chain of misery and suffering and abusive attitudes, negative attitudes? That's your choice. As a human being, it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. And it doesn't matter if you're a young adult, middle-aged adult, or an older adult. Each one of us plays a role in helping humanity better itself. And I know I'm speaking broadly, but that's the issue. It is a broad problem. in every culture, every country. It's not just the US. A lot of people think the world revolves around the US. That's so ridiculous. It's a worldwide problem with so many harsh parents out there. Now, it's good to teach your children discipline, to get the good grades in school, to become somebody in life. But when you're too hard on them, now you entered into the room of extremism. That room is very dangerous. But you can't also be on the opposite end of the spectrum, right? You can't be too easy on your kids either. Let them do whatever they want. I mean, because again, you're not teaching them properly how to make wise choices, intelligent choices, how to think about potential consequences down the road, either now or in the future, how to regret the mistakes that they made so that they don't repeat them again. But it's okay if they repeat some mistakes again, as long as they learn from them, finally. It's okay to make, the same mistake twice, as long as you eventually learn from it. But it depends. What is the mistake? How severe is it? Sometimes you don't get a second time to learn. Sometimes you have to learn after the first time, because the second time could be far worse, making the same mistake twice. But the teaching has to be there. And so as a coach, I don't try to act like people's fathers or mothers. I'm not your parent. I'm here to help you if you want. They're supposed to teach you everything that they've ever learned about life and love. And when they fail to do so, guess who's going to fail in the future? Most likely, the kids. Now, in my case, I was set up to fail in the future because my parents didn't teach me anything about love. And like I said, from the tender young age of 13, I had to begin studying everything I could because I wanted to. My 2 older brothers and sister, who's the oldest, they didn't study anything about love. I was the only one who secretly studied everything I could about love. So it's a choice, as I said before. You either do it or you don't. You better yourself. You learn about the beautiful power of love and spread it to others who deserve it. Not just anybody. There's a lot of people who don't deserve it because they're not ready to receive love. Your love. It's precious. It's valuable. So don't just give it away for free. Giving respect to those who deserve it. You hear it all the time. Respect has to be earned. Okay, but just respect people in general, okay? Don't make everybody have to earn the respect. Just respect those who, respect people more to the ones who really deserve it. So you have to be a little bit selective. That's okay, because they're going above and beyond for you. So with that said, it's not that people fail in relationships today because, they're just making all kinds of bad decisions. No, they started failing a long time ago, ever since they were little kids, by not learning basics. So how to be in control of your mind, your emotions, what love is, because unfortunately, many parents, they toss their kids in front of a TV set and force them to watch Disney movies. Sure, they'll learn a little bit about love through those musicals and prince and princess, stories. But it's not enough. And it's not entirely realistic. You could live a similar life of your dreams, like a fairy tale, but you can't if you don't understand how love works. How to select the perfect candidate, as I said before. So with that said, I hope this stream has been educational. A little bit more serious than the others, but it's a must in order to end the Perfect Soulmate series as a final finale. This one's for the future of humanity. For all those kids out there growing up, I hope you guys have wise and intelligent parents, because you are the future, as I was once upon a time. This is my future, trying to help the future's future. And I hope all you adults out there will do the same. So, join me in my mission to help others, because that's the only way we're going to make this world a better place. Nobody's going to come save us. It's just we, the people of the entire world. Good luck and much love.